Look at this ridiculous shit. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're in the Fairmont Ghia again, and we're going to go get into some tuning today, finally. It's a beautiful day outside. It's a Sunday. There's a stupid amount of cars in the area on the roads, so I'm going to have to go out to the local industrial area. Hopefully there's not a hell of a lot of learner drivers out and about, because I need some nice stretch of road so I can get some tuning done. So last time I took this thing out for a drive, I made some changes around idle. I think I might have pulled a little bit too much fuel, sort of around the 1500 RPM mark, because basically what's happening is as soon as I go to apply a little bit of throttle when it's sort of at low revs, if it's just like, you know, around 1000 RPM, 1200 RPM, as soon as I go to transition to a little bit more throttle, it has a massive lean spike. So I think I might have pulled a little bit too much fuel around a certain load point around the 1500 mark. So today we're going to see if we can remedy that. Apart from that, like we did in the last episode, I disconnected the factory O2 sensor. The ECU will use the factory O2 sensor to play around with the fuel trims to try and achieve, you know, certain mixtures at idle and sort of like cruise conditions. So yeah, so that's the reason for disconnecting the factory O2 sensor. Now that it's disconnected, when I'm making some changes in the tune, that's not going to be having any effect on the mixtures that I'm trying to achieve. So yeah, so with that being said, I'm just going to go head out. We'll go get some gas. Hopefully it makes it to the gas station, because it was quite low last time I started this thing up. We'll go find some quiet sections of road out in the local areas, and yeah, we'll try and get something done today. I've got a couple of hours to spare, so we should be able to at least get this thing driving a little bit nicer. Not too fussed about wide open throttle at the moment. I'm more concerned about just cruising, driving normally. If I can get that dialed in, we can sort out the sort of like the 3/4 full throttle areas for the time being until I can get it onto a dyno. So yeah, without further ado, we'll go get stuck into it, and yeah, hopefully we have somewhat of a result by the end of the day. We should have enough gas to get to the gas station. Alright, so what I've done is just taken the chip out, just downloaded the tune that's on this chip into TunerPro. So I've just clicked on that one there. So that'll be downloading. Cool. Alright, okay, so that bin should be in here now. What do I want to have a look at? VE table. These are the values I've got currently. What I want to do is compare it to a stock bin. So right now, sort of got around 35% less fuel around idle, and I think that might be a little bit too much that I've pulled. So I might cut that back to maybe around 30 to 25% less fuel. And I might cut some of these values back as well, because it seems to have a very lean section around here. We'll have a play anyway and see what happens, but I'm thinking at the moment I might multiply by, I might make those numbers a little bit higher, so we'll go multiply by 1.05, and that should make the numbers bigger slightly. Then we can do a compare and just see what they change by. So now we're at about 30ish. Might change these ones. Go back to that area, go another 5% on that, and then we'll compare that again. So now we're around the 28 to 30% mark there. And what I'll also do is around here as well, I might actually drop that. Drop the fuel trim that I did take off that and just make that slightly richer. think that's about 19 to 20%. Okay, we'll give that a go and see what happens. Alright, so we're just taking it out for a drive at the moment. Made some slight adjustments. Yeah, not really sure yet if it's made the right changes that I need, but no better way to check that than a road test. So at the moment, AFR is just been lightly accelerating, sort of between 13.5, 14.5-ish. Sort of jumps around a little bit, but yeah, so far feels a hell of a lot smoother than it first did when I took it out a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, so far so good. We'll have to stop in to get some gas along the way. Hopefully catching the end of the afternoon now. A little bit quieter on the roads and whatnot, so yeah, should be good. We'll go take the dog out for a walk first, and then we'll get into some tuning. Alright, so made it to the gas station. $18.8 litres, $60, $3.19 a litre. Look at this ridiculous shit. So already on diesel, I'm seeing 12s. So I can see a lot of room for improvement in terms of fuel economy already. I've also just tested this at a slightly lower idle speed as well, just to see how much I can get away with. At the moment it seems to be idling pretty steady there. AFRs obviously, they were tuned for a slightly higher idle, so yeah, I might see how it runs there. If I can lean it out a little bit and keep it steady. At the moment it's around the 13s or high 12s I've seen. But yeah, all in all, it actually doesn't drive too badly right now. It's a hell of a lot better than it was the other day. It is stupidly rich on diesel though, so like if I take my foot off the gas right now, AFRs are like 11s to 12. So yeah, a hell of a lot of room for improvement there. But as a starting point, not too bad, I guess. So this is where a data logger would come in a hell of a lot handy right now. Basically, as I'm driving, I'm manually data logging. I'm looking at my air fuel ratios, I'm looking at my manifold vacuum, I'm looking at my rev counter as well, so I'm trying to keep an eye on RPM and everything at one go. It is an absolute mission to try and analyze all that and remember it for when you need to make a change in the tune. So if you're anything like me and you don't have a data logger, pen and paper seems to be the best thing you can do. I was actually doing that earlier in the driveway, just trying to figure out what this little lean stumble was. Basically, if I put it into gear and accelerate it lightly, it has this little lean spike where it stumbles for a split second, and I was trying to figure out what that was exactly. So trying to maintain like a steady RPM and a steady manifold vacuum, just so you can see what your air fuel ratio is, so you know what to change and where to change it. Yeah, it's the long way of doing things. So if you can get some sort of data logging set up, this would make it a hell of a lot easier to road tune. At the moment I'm on a massive budget. Obviously I've got a couple of cars that I'm trying to work on all at the same time, so yeah, for me this is the way that I do it. I just want to get a rough road tune that I can just drive around on, and then eventually I'll book it in for a proper dyno tune and let a tuner do his thing, because I'm by no means anywhere near at a level where I can safely tune a car. I'm just your average DIY guy on a budget, so yeah, we'll get there one day. But yeah, for now, like I was saying, I'm just trying to get this thing running a bit better on the street, and yeah, at a later date we'll get it sorted properly. So yeah. exactly go to plan. Got out to the industrial areas and started driving around, and then got a phone call which interrupted everything. So yeah, back to the drawing board. So this is a week on from the last little bit of the episode. So again, we're heading out to the industrial areas right now. It's actually reasonably quiet on the road, so should be able to get something done today. So yeah, last time I was out on the road, I was mainly just checking to see what sort of AFRs or air fuel ratios I was getting just at different driving conditions. So got a little bit of a collection of figures now, I guess you could say. So at least I know roughly what areas I need to work on. I definitely need to work on diesel. It's stupidly rich there. Obviously, if I can get it closer to what it should be, once I plug the O2 sensor back in, hopefully it's going to still do its job but not lean it out too much, because that'll be trying to correct the ratios on the fly sort of thing. So yeah, definitely need to work on that. At the moment I've tuned it a little bit rich around idle speed, mainly because it had this little lean spike, which doesn't seem anywhere near as bad as what it was before. So yeah, I've got a little bit of work to do there. I've also got a little bit of work to do on sort of part throttle, well, everywhere in part throttle, to be honest. For the most part it's not too bad. At light throttle, like coming up to like 2000 RPM, it seems to be around the 14s. When the engine's cold, it's a little bit of a prick, to be honest. It's over fueling everywhere. Once it gets some temperature in it, then it's a lot better. It might be something I'll just have to live with. But yeah, apart from that, doesn't seem too bad overall. Like, it does drive. I'm driving it right now, and it's tolerable. It's not bucking or anything like that. It's not lean spiking like it was before, and it seems relatively smooth. So yeah, not too bad of a base to start with. But yeah, like I said, I've got a few areas to work on. So we'll do a bit more driving, see if I can figure out a few more things that I need to work on, and then yeah, we'll play around and try and get these mixtures a little bit better. And I might actually play around with the timing a little bit as well, just see if I can increase the torque down low, because it's a bit of a slug at the moment. So yeah. Okay, so at the moment, from what driving I just did, I've got a massive lean spot when I get into full throttle, just off idle. So I'd say between like 900 and 1200, massive lean spot where it sort of spikes to about 18 AFR, and it's consistent every time I flatten the throttle, it does it. So adding a bit more fuel in there should sort of help. I've just leaned up the mixtures in this area here. Basically, yeah, compared to a stock bin, I've sort of gone about sort of 6 to 10% leaner around that sort of mid-range area there. At those load points there, it's sort of like around light throttle, like very, very light throttle. I've still got to lean out quite a bit up here as well, because it's stupidly rich on diesel. So I'll see if I can sort that out now. I'm also just going to open up the spark table. I'm just going to add a couple of degrees. So what I'll do is I'll just change that from multiply to an offset plus or minus, and then I can just go say add 2.0, which will add 2 units onto whatever I've selected. So if I go execute that, that should change the values I've selected by 2 units. But yeah, it should go from whatever it was to 2 degrees more. We'll save that for now, and we'll just we'll give that a go. Nice night for a bit of tuning. Cool. And as I was saying, it's a lot of back and forth. We'll just initialize that. That's ready. What I'll do is I'll just upload that tune. Cool, and I'll just go and verify that. And yes, Jason, I will set up those shortcuts shortly. Cool, so we're all good. So what I've done there is I've added a bit more fuel, around sort of 5 to 0 inches of vac, which is, you know, sort of your full throttle area, or heavy throttle area, because I had a massive lean spike. I'll see if I can pick up what it was doing. I think I missed it on the camera, but I don't think the changes I've made are enough to fully fix that right now, but we'll be able to sort of get a rough idea of how badly it does stumble when you try and accelerate heavy. At the moment, low revs, decel, AFR's around 12, mid 12, sometimes 11, depending on whereabouts in the revs it is. I've leaned out the fueling around that area, not specifically in any particular area. I've just leaned out sort of across the board a little bit, mainly sort of under 3,500 RPM. I'll see what those changes have done. Like I was saying, it's a bit tedious. You've got to take the chip out, make a change, upload it to the chip, try it, and then yeah, it's a little bit of back and forth, but we'll slowly get there. It's all part of the experience. So yeah, we'll do that. Like I was saying, I've just made those changes. I've also added a little bit of timing in the mid-range, so I've added about 2 degrees extra advance in there. We'll see if that helps much. It is very doughy in the lower revs until it sort of gets into sort of 3,000 RPM area. Then it starts to sort of come alive, which is to be expected. I'm going to put a disclaimer out there right now. If you're putting the stage 3, stage 4 cam, you need more compression. At the moment, this engine is very close to factory compression. I did have the cylinder head shaved a few years ago, and I put it in with a standard head gasket. The compression ratio was probably very close to what it was initially from factory. Yeah, ideally I'd say you'd probably want to be like minimum 10 to 1 compression, 10 to 1, 11 to 1 compression with this particular cam. I think will go a lot better. Another thing that would help big time, high stall obviously. I'd say minimum 2,500 RPM stall. That'll keep you in your sweet spot. The other thing that would also help that I don't have either is a vernier adjustable cam gear. That will allow you to advance your cam timing a bit, bring the power band down lower in the rev range. It might only be able to advance it, you know, sort of like, I think it can go 2 or 3 degrees each way generally. It might be more. It's been a while since I've actually looked at a cam gear for the E series and AUs, but yeah, advancing it a couple of degrees will bring the power band, you know, a couple of 100 RPM each way, if you're retarded or you advance it, whichever. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're working with quite a narrow rev range anyway, like these cars only rev to like 5.5, 6k anyway, a couple of 100 does make a bit of a difference. So yeah, I'll definitely recommend doing that. So higher compression, high stall, if it's not manual, high stall. And then obviously vernier adjustable cam gear as well. Other thing that would help as well, keeping it in its rev range, would be diff gears. So at the moment I'm working with 3.45 to 1. 411s would be a big advantage right now. Not that it's an absolute dog, like it still does drive reasonably well. So yeah, a couple of things I would suggest if you are doing it, just so you're not disappointed, I guess. There's probably a lot of people thinking, oh yeah, I'll chuck a stage 4 cam in here or whatever, put it in, they're like, oh, I've lost a bit of torque. Yeah, you got to have a package that sort of matches. So yeah, those would be my suggestions at the very least. So yeah. Yes, it is still very rich around low throttle, and like you can see right there at decel, it's around the 12 still. So I've got a bit of work to do on this. Like I was saying, it is all part of the process. I'll slowly get there. Like I was saying, it's just one of those things where I just take it out to the local industrial area, do a bit of driving, do a bit of tuning. You know, it's a lot of back and forth, so yeah, it's one of those things. Just gonna go find a bit of a quiet bit of road, and I'll give it a stab, pretty much off idle, just to see how bad the lean spike is now. Before it got into the 18s and just stumbled until I let off the gas. So yeah, that's pretty much at idle at the moment. AFR's around 12. So you can see it's still lean spikes, not as bad, it's still shit. It goes into 16s, I think I saw, and you can feel it struggle a bit. So yeah, I'll definitely add a bit more fuel in there, I think. So it seems to be relatively happy. Part throttle was a lot better now. AFRs are a bit better. I don't mind my really screechy brakes. Sort of said the AFRs are around the 14 mark. That's pretty decent. When I get off the gas and it's around the 11s, that definitely needs work, obviously. And then yeah, the full throttle area at very low revs, just sort of transitioning off idle, definitely needs a bit of work there as well. So yeah, slowly getting there. Alright, so as you just saw at the end of that last clip, there was a little bit of a full throttle run. Was very brief, but I did see sort of getting towards sort of 5,500 RPM, coming up to red line. It started to go a little bit lean. I think I saw like 13.3ish. Ideally I want to try and keep that like mid 12s or somewhere around there. So what we'll do is just go into TunerPro and make some adjustments in the VE table again. So we will open the VE table. So this is what we had last time, and the areas of the tune that I think would need to be adjusted, probably mainly that 5,000 column there at your full load, which is around the 30 to 25, which would be your sort of your zero vac and maybe 5 inches. And we will mob that around 5,000 RPM. So we'll multiply that by 1.05, which will bring that up 5%. And we'll see if that makes enough of a change. So what we can do there, we'll just go compare data. So basically we just added another 5% of fuel in there. One thing that I will mention now, if this number ends up getting to 100, it basically maxed out and you won't be able to add any more fuel. So that's the point where you sort of need to go bigger injectors and then scale them to suit. But yeah, hopefully that'll be enough of a change to keep the mixtures good at those sort of RPMs. Obviously once you get past your 5,000 RPM, you've got nothing above that. So not too sure what the guys do there. I'm assuming that they rescale these. You'll probably lose like a little bit of the lower RPMs and add an extra row for your maybe 5,500 RPM. I'm not sure how it works, but yeah, in this case I'm just keeping the rev limit fairly standard. I think, well, we'll go have a look what the rev limit is actually, I'm not too sure. Rev limit is at 5,700 currently, so if you wanted to change it, you could change it there. I don't think I'm going to be making power up around there, not especially with a stock head. Well, in terms of ports at least, I don't think I'll be making much more power above 5,700 anyway, so we'll leave that for the time being. But yeah, so basically I've added a bit of fuel there. I'm definitely going to have to pull a bit of fuel probably around these areas, well, this section of vac, pretty much in the mid-range, sort of like 1,500 up towards maybe 3,500, because as soon as I get off the gas at any of those sort of revs, it's quite rich, so I should be able to lean those areas out a little bit. I'm still going to make an adjustment around here as well, maybe even to there-ish. We'll add a bit more fuel there, just so when it's off idle, full throttle, it's not leaning out like it was in the videos. And there's probably, I'd say at the moment, like part throttle, sort of half throttle upwards, seems to be okay. Full throttle's not too bad, it's reasonable until it gets into the upper revs and it sort of goes a little bit lean, but for the most part, part throttle's sort of around the 13 to 14 area, so I'm happy to keep that as it is. for the time being. And yeah, obviously I've got around idle and sort of low RPM cruising. The AFR is a little bit on the rich side, so I definitely need to pull fuel there. So yeah, I think I've got a bit more info now, so I'll be able to make some changes in the tune to suit that. So yeah, I'll see if I can figure out a little bit more of the tune, and then I'll book it in for a dyno. I would like to get this on the dyno and just see what sort of power I can get out of it currently. But initially I wanted to go more compression, adjustable vernier cam gear, and a bit of port work as well, just to see what I could get out of it without going too serious. But yeah, for the time being, I might just put it on the dyno, see where it's at, get a little bit of a baseline for it, because this car has never actually been on a dyno yet. So yeah, I'd say it's probably around the 130, 140 kilowatts at the wheels. Obviously it's not really tuned to make max power right now. So as a starting point, it sort of feels around that sort of area. It might be more, it might be less, but the seat of the pants dyno, that's what it sort of feels like. But yeah, definitely needs a bit of work. At the moment I'm only sort of just mucking around with the fueling. Timing I haven't really done a hell of a lot on just yet, so yeah, once you get your air fuel ratios dialed in, timing will probably be where you start making your gains in power and torque. So yeah, we'll probably catch up on that on the next video. There's a few other things I want to get into as well with the transmission shift side of things in the tune as well. You can increase the shift firmness in the tune itself, which is quite cool. You don't need an electronic shift kit or anything like that, so that's one thing I definitely want to touch on the next video. We'll get that set up and make some adjustments and get some nice first to second gear tire chirps happening, because yeah, you can firm up the shifts a hell of a lot, and it actually speeds up everything quite nicely. Whereas the stock shift firmness is very, very soft, obviously for comfort, not for sort of max performance and minimizing downtime and that sort of thing. So yeah, we'll touch on that in the next video, obviously. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully there's something in there helpful for somebody. Like I was saying, next video we'll have a bit more on the tuning side of things. We'll probably do a bit more in the next couple of episodes at least on the tune, and then eventually we'll get it on the dyno hopefully. So yeah, catch you on the next one. Sure.